Okay, we've got Natalie here with us today, and Natalie, I'd love for you to share with us your pregnancy and your birth journey. And if you'd like to introduce yourself and your family, that would be cool.
Yeah, of course. I'm Natalie. I'm 34 years old, and there's my partner Dan, and he's 36, and we've got little Isabella, who's 6 months old now. I'm from Australia originally, and my partner is Kiwi, and we live in the North Shore. And yeah, we met in Fiji about 4 years ago, and it got pretty serious pretty fast, and then a few years down the track we got engaged, and with COVID we weren't able to have our wedding, so we had a good little chat about maybe changing around the order of things, and we decided that we'd like to try and have a baby. So we started a preconception journey just because I wanted to make sure that both myself and Dan were in as best shape as possible before we started to try. That kind of just involved taking the right, good quality prenatal vitamin, and just eating well, taking care of ourselves, our minds, our body. And Dan took a male version of the multivitamin as well. And yeah, it took a few months. Yeah, we were quite lucky. It took a few months of trying before we fell pregnant. And yeah, I had a pretty textbook pregnancy. I was quite nauseous in the first trimester. I wasn't physically sick, but pretty much from 4 weeks, I felt nauseous 24/7. And I'm a chef, so I had to cook, and it was quite hard to deal with being around food. I was doing a seafood course actually when my sort of morning sickness kicked in, and I was doing 2 weeks of cooking seafood, and I couldn't tell anyone that I was pregnant. It was quite hard trying to gut fish and all of that. But yeah, so the first trimester I was just feeling almost like I was severely hungover and seasick all in one. And yeah, I had a bit of reflux and really bad food aversion. I couldn't eat. I hated food, which is very strange for me because food's so important to me. I'm quite a healthy eater, and I couldn't even bear the thought of eating a salad, which is what I live off normally. So yeah, I actually lost a bit of weight during my first trimester, but I was fine. I think the preconception journey that I went on, well, I feel that I had blood tests done before I fell pregnant, and all my stores, like my iron stores and all the important stuff, was just through the roof. And I feel like it really helped me in my first trimester and throughout the rest of my pregnancy that I had really good stores in my body, because I wasn't really eating very nutritious food in the first trimester. Second trimester was pretty amazing. I think I was around 13 or 14 weeks where I started to feel better, and basically felt like this pregnancy goddess in the second trimester, and felt like I could do everything. And yeah, I just really enjoyed pregnancy then. And then, yeah, the third trimester was sort of in between the way I felt in the first and the second. So I wasn't feeling anywhere near as bad as I was in the first trimester, but I just started to feel a bit, yeah, just uncomfortable at the end. And I wasn't that interested in eating as much. I just felt really full. But yeah, I don't know if you want me to go into the birth yet.
Yeah, so yes, absolutely. Take us through the end of your pregnancy and going into labor.
So I was working full time as a chef, and I was on my feet full time, which started to get pretty hard on my body. I tried to be as active as possible, but yeah, just working on my feet all day, I would just come home from work and I was just so exhausted. I would just lay on the couch and listen to my meditation and my relaxing music, and usually always fall asleep. But yeah, we did. I must I got to mention, we did decide early on that we wanted to do a hypnobirthing course and it ended up being with you. So I met up with my midwife and she mentioned hypnobirthing to me, and I hadn't even heard of hypnobirthing. I had no idea what it was. And I went home and I Googled it. I also spoke to a friend of mine and she had done her own hypnobirthing course. She had done that one online. And so, yeah, I was quite intrigued. And then I found your hypnobirthing course and we pretty much booked in early. We wanted to get in nice and early so that I could be as prepared as we could be. And Dan was super excited about it as well. So yeah, we went to your course and it just made us so excited about birth. So I can honestly say that we weren't that nervous. I wasn't feeling very nervous. Just pure excitement. And I never entertained the idea of having a home birth. I knew that I didn't want to birth in a hospital, ideally. I knew that I at the time, initially, I thought maybe at a birthing centre, although we're about 50 minutes away from a birthing centre. So, and then again, if we were at the birthing centre and we needed to go to the hospital, it was a 40-minute drive. So there was going to be quite a lot of commuting involved. So that was a little bit of an influence as to why I initially thought birthing at home would be a better option. But then once we finished our hypnobirthing course and I saw how excited Dan was at the idea of a home birth, and I was excited about the idea of a home birth, we pretty much decided then and there that we were going to go for a home birth. And our midwife, she specializes in home birth, water births. So it just all seemed to fall into place perfectly for us. So yeah, I finished up work 4 weeks before my due date, and I'd slowly just been setting up the living room just with our, affirmations, and I had all these plants in there, just creating a really beautiful space for us. And I ended up going into labor on my due date, which was not expected. I guess I listened to a lot of birth stories and read a lot of things, and I didn't want to expect to go into labor on our due date because I didn't think it would happen. And I know that it can be quite rare, especially for your first birth. So yeah, I'd been to the beach that day. I tried to stay quite active as much as I could, as much as my body was allowing me to be, but it was mostly just doing lots of walking and little bits of yoga and meditation, and just making sure I stayed as relaxed as possible. And I was feeling pretty amazing. And yeah, that afternoon I was making dinner and I started feeling, this was sort of the first signs of labor. I just started feeling sort of cramping in my abdomen, which was just a consistent cramp, more like a period pain cramp. And then I felt it a little bit in my lower back, and I was on the phone to my mum and she's like, "You're going into labor tonight." I didn't think that I would. I thought maybe because I'd heard that you can go into like early labor, which can last 4 or 5 days. And so I didn't want to get my hopes up. So I just sort of was like, oh, we'll see. Just gave our midwife and our doula a heads up that maybe it might happen. And then I had a shower that night and I noticed a bit of my mucus plug had come away. And so Dan and I were racing around just getting the last minute things sorted in case. We went to bed at about 10 o'clock and I didn't go to sleep. I couldn't sleep. And I woke up because I noticed there was a little bit more of a rhythm to my surges or cramps. And I thought, okay, well, I went out to the living room and I laid out, we had a fire going, and I laid out by the fireplace and I left Dan to sleep. And I started timing my surges, and they were timed them for about 50 minutes. And the app kept telling me to go to hospital. I think it was like it kept telling me, okay, you're close, go to hospital. And I thought, no, I just kept, closing it down. But yeah, I timed them, and they were going for almost a minute, and they were 3 minutes apart consistently, which I found quite surprising because I just didn't expect it to be like that so soon. Dan heard me in the lounge room. I must have been moaning, and I hopped in the shower, and he was in the bathroom with me, and he was timing my surges, and they were 2 minutes. They were 1 minute long, just over 1 minute long, 2 minutes apart consistently for about another hour. So this must have been maybe 2 o'clock in the morning by then. And he messaged the doula and the midwife, and they're like, okay, we're on our way. And they came around, I think that maybe about an hour or so later. And yeah, it was just like they were consistent surges and they didn't stop. So we had a little nap had to lay down in our bedroom. And the midwife actually had 2 other women that were in labor as well. So she had 3 women in labor at the time,
Wow.
including myself.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah, it was a full moon as well.
Oh,
So
well, there you go.
yeah, it was
there you go. I always say that. Full moon, midwives out and busy.
Yeah,
Yep.
I know. It was the lunar eclipse. Yeah, so maybe that had something to do with it.
Yeah.
So we were lucky we had our doula, because we decided at the last minute to get a doula, and I'm just so glad that we did. I think because it was our first birth, there was so much uncertainty for us because we hadn't done it before, and it was so nice to have her there. So the midwife actually had to sort of come and go a bit, and I wasn't bothered by it. I was sort of just in the zone. I was just trying to, and I was feeling really calm and safe. So yeah, it didn't, and there was nothing to worry about. I had so much faith in the midwife. I felt like I knew she knew what she was doing. You know, she wouldn't have left if she thought that there was concern. So we had the doula there, and she was communicating with the midwife. And anyway, we had to lay down in our room for a few hours, and I didn't sleep. I was just going through the surges and trying to just breathe through them. And when the sun came up, we came out of the living room, and once again we were going through the surges, and Dan was using light touch massage quite a lot with me, which I found helped. I was moving around a lot. I was over the couch on my knees, and then I was sort of over the bench in the kitchen, standing up, swaying my hips a lot. But yeah, Dan was by my side the whole time. He did not leave my side throughout the whole labor and birth. And he set up the birth pool with the doula, and I told them I needed a break. And I knew that by hopping in, just with everything that I had heard, by hopping in the birth pool, it would potentially slow down my surges and labor. But I was starting to get to a point where they were just one after another from midnight the night before. And I needed a break. So I hopped in the birth pool, and they did slow down, but I think I was in there for about an hour, and Dan was in there with me, and the midwife was still not there, and the doula was there, but I was just so relieved to have a break. And I think I might have fallen asleep a little bit, and then the midwife came back, and I don't know what time this was. It could have been about 9 or 10 o'clock. And she said, all right, I think you need to get out of the pool. And she did her first internal, and I was fully effaced, and I was 7 centimeters dilated at that stage. And so she asked me to go for a walk around. We live on a lifestyle block, so we've just got quite a lot of land here, which is perfect. So she asked us to go for a walk outside and to do some hip swaying, hip opening movements. And it's quite funny, if somebody saw us from the road, we would have looked like we were, I don't know, on drugs or something, because we were walking around our property Dan was holding me, and I had my arms wrapped around his neck each time I had a surge, and I was just hanging off of him and swaying my hips. And so we did that for maybe an hour and a half, and I found that, I know it helped, but it was hard. It was getting hard, and I don't know if I was going through some sort of transition, but yeah, I was stuck or just getting really tired. And then I came back and we sat on the birth pool, and I was sat on the birthing ball, the exercise ball, and I was swaying my hips. And then I told the doula, I said, I want the midwife to come back now, because she left again. She had to leave a few times. So she's like, she's on her way. And I'm like, okay. And I think that just knowing she was back on her way back, whether she was or not, that helped me. And she came back, and I just wanted an update because I was starting to struggle a little bit. And we ended up hopping back in the birth pool, and the midwife came back, and I was having surges in the birth pool, and she thought that, we weren't sure if my waters had broken, but there was stuff in the water, so we weren't entirely sure. And she actually, I felt a sort of an urge to push, but so I was sort of trying to do my down breathing in the pool, and I was leaned over the birth pool and squatting. And I actually did my own check to see if I could feel baby's head, and I could feel her head, but it was still right up the top. And I did a few more, after a few more surges, I tried to feel her again, and she wasn't descending. And so the midwife got me out of the pool, which was so hard to do. I got out of the pool, and she did another check on me, and she's like, I'm not sure if your waters have broken, but it seemed she thought I had a cervical lip, which I didn't know, but she thought that was the reason why the baby wasn't descending down. And she got me to stand up and lean over the kitchen bench. And as I was having surges, Dan was pushing on my hips, and I found that quite to try and open up my hips, help baby come down. And then I actually had my bloody show then. I remember that. And I started to really get, there was never a point where I was scared, but I was starting to just get a bit irritated, or the midwife and the doula had come outside. I'm not sure if they were having a chat or what was going on. And I did start to get a bit irritated. I was just like, Dan, find out what's going on. Like, I want this to move. I want this to like keep moving. And then the midwife came in and said, look, this is completely up to you, but I feel that we might need to look at breaking your waters. Is this something that this would be considered an intervention, but it's up to you. It will make things go quicker. And I was getting tired as well. I think she was just a bit worried because I was getting tired. And she said, otherwise we will just leave it and see what happens, but we might be here for a little bit longer. And I said to her, no, let's just break my waters. I was ready to get things moving. And when she did another internal before, she had like a little, I don't know what it's called. It's like, it's something they use that can break the waters.
Yep.
She went to do an internal with her fingers, and actually my waters broke then. So she didn't need to use
so they were ready to go.
Yeah. And then I wasn't sure what was going on with the whole cervical lip thing, but she thought, let's give it a go now. Your waters have broken. That might help baby come down. And with the whole hip opening stuff that Dan was doing, pushing on my hips as well. So I hopped back in the pool, and I started to do my down breathing and throughout my surges, and baby still wasn't coming down. And so I actually felt, I was squatting throughout most of this, and I felt the need to actually lay back. And I laid back with Dan behind me, and I wanted to be in that position, which I never imagined. But it was nice that I was able to make that decision. So I laid back, and when I did throughout my surges, the midwife actually had to
this was probably the most uncomfortable I was. She had to try and move the cervical lip
Yeah.
on a couple of my
Yeah.
surges, and that was the most uncomfortable that I was. And it worked.
Yes.
Baby started coming down, and it was all on. I think like the pushing phase probably was only about half an hour or so,
Wow.
but I wanted to be able to breathe her down, and I imagined that we would do that, and I was hoping for that. But I think being the first one, I'm not sure if it's, yeah, I wasn't able to, and I hope that I'm able to do that for our next baby. But I did have to do a bit of pushing, like um, chin to my chest and pushing. But that's all right. That's probably the only thing about our birth that I wish that was a bit different. Everything else I loved. But yeah, I did have to push her.
And you were in the pool at this time?
In the pool, laying back, Dan behind me, and it was probably about kind of 15 minutes of like some really, big pushing, but we worked with my surges. I could feel it happening. I could feel my body doing it at the same time. And yeah, her head was coming out, and I remember putting my hand down. I could feel her head, and that was pretty amazing. And Dan was just so excited. And but yeah, we worked with my surges, and we had a break. She'd crowned. Her head was pretty much all the way out, and we had a good break. And then those surges came again, and that was when the rest of her body came out. And I just like quickly jumped down and grabbed her and brought her up onto my chest. And I was just I don't know, I was in shock. I was exhausted. I was emotional. I was shocked. I was crying. I was just, yeah, I was so relieved. I think that's probably the biggest word. I was just so relieved that it was over and that I had done it and that she was here, and just also in shock. It's just one of those moments where you can't believe what you've just done.
Absolutely. And I just want to add here too, Natalie, that you've shown me some short video and photographic footage of your birth. And what I thought was most amazing is that the midwife did not need to interfere at any point in time. She was sitting well back. She was just watching. You birthed the baby. You picked her up out of the pool. It was like just you three there, and it was just absolutely incredible. There was no one needed to look at baby or anything like that, and it was just such a beautiful process to see that happen. You guys did it all on your own. Amazing.
Yeah.
So, and something to be so super proud of.
Thank you. Yeah, we always talk about our birth. We just look back on it, and yeah, I still get emotional thinking about it. It was what we wanted. We wanted to be able to try and do it as much ourselves as possible.
And you did.
Yeah, the midwife was amazing. She, just having her there eased my mind, and she didn't need to really get involved that much. And it was really special that we were able to. We did most of it ourselves, and yeah, having her in the room was enough for me to feel safe. So,
So what kind of time frame was it when baby was born?
So I went in, I'd say from midnight the night before, and she was born at 3:15 p.m. the next day.
Nice.
So it was a 15-hour labor and birth for her.
Yeah, excellent.
So not too long, not too short, not too long. Yeah. It went pretty fast, to be fair, for us, like for me anyway. I was in another world at most of the time. Yeah.
And how were the first few days afterwards?
Good. Yeah, I definitely felt those amazing hormones that I read about, this beautiful cocktail of oxytocin, and I felt that I was just on cloud 9. And yeah, she breastfed, she latched on really well, and breastfeeding went really well for us, and she just slept. So yeah, I tried to sleep as much as I could throughout those few days, but it was just so special that we were able to be in our home and not have to go anywhere. And we were lucky we didn't have to go to hospital, and we were just there. We were there, and we had the midwife come and visit and check on us, and it was just the three of us, and it was just so special. Yeah, I remember looking at Dan the day after I gave birth, and I was holding Isabella in my arms, and I said to him, I feel like I have a purpose now. So yeah, it was beautiful.
Cool. And so looking back at everything and thinking about your pregnancy and birth journey, is there one piece of advice that you would love to pass on to other parents who are, about to embark on this journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess everyone is different, but what worked for us, what worked for me was a lot of preparation, getting inspiration, sort of having an idea of what I wanted, and then getting inspiration from other people. And if that's sort of, watching some beautiful birth stories, home birth videos, or whatever birth you desire, watching them on YouTube or listening to podcasts. And I guess we got so much out of the hypnobirthing course. Dan absolutely loved the hypnobirthing course.
What did he like about it the most? Do you know?
I think he was and same for me, I just didn't know anything about the way a woman's body works with birthing a baby. Like, it just blew my mind, and how amazing our bodies are to do this. Just learning all of the relaxation techniques and light touch and meditation, and having those tools just eased my mind so much. And even though I wish I had practiced it more during my pregnancy, however, I was just so tired. And I think that my one piece of advice is that don't put so much pressure on yourself, but even when you're sleeping or resting, just put stuff on in the background that's going to help, those relaxation techniques, because even when you're sleeping, you're still taking it in. And even just like beautiful music and anything that's going to relax you. But the breathing, I found, was big for me throughout my labor.
Right. So the breathing really worked well for you.
If there's one thing that you can take from the hypnobirthing course, or anything you do really in life, it's just to breathe, just to learn to breathe. And if you just focus on your breath, if that's the one tool that you take with you, then you've got it. There was so many moments throughout my labor where I was doing nothing but just focusing on my breath, and that was huge for me. So yeah. Preparation is probably the best thing. If you want something, we wanted a home birth so badly, and I wanted it to work, and we were also okay if things diverted. We were also prepared for that, but we really visualized what we wanted, and I put in the preparation for it. So yeah, you've got to work for it, I think.
And you did.
Yeah.
And you did amazing.
Yeah.
And you're beautiful. So big congratulations to you and Dan, and to Isabella as well. And thank you so much for coming on here today to share your story with others, because I know it will be inspiring. And I know that for others listening who are planning on a home birth, then they're looking for stories like yours to know that it can go as well as it did. Yes, you felt it was a bit long at the time. Yes, there were times that you were mentally challenged, a little bit frustrated, but you did it. You got through and you did it. And really, it was a very smooth birth process. So thank you so much, Natalie. Really appreciate it.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.